The room was tense before Senator Cory Booker even spoke. Cameras flashed like sparks in a storm, journalists leaned forward in their seats, and a cold silence fell across the marble-walled Senate chamber. Everyone knew what was coming. For days, rumors had circulated that Booker had prepared something explosive, a speech that would leave even Trump's most loyal allies scrambling for cover. But no one, not even his fiercest critics, expected what would unfold next. At the front table sat a row of witnesses, Trump's allies, political strategists, and former officials, all brought before the committee to defend their handling of a controversy that had gripped the nation. Some whispered to their attorneys. Others stared straight ahead, stoic and smug. The tension in the air was so thick it felt like electricity before a thunderclap. Booker's calm expression only deepened the unease. He didn't rush. He waited, letting the silence stretch until every eye in the chamber turned toward him. Then, with a steady voice that carried both warmth and steel, he began. His tone wasn't angry at first. It was measured, almost surgical, the kind of calm that only comes before a storm. For too long, he said, we've allowed power to hide behind arrogance, to mistake defiance for strength and deception for patriotism. The words landed heavy, echoing through the chamber like the toll of a bell. Across the table, one of Trump's staunchest defenders shifted in his seat. A camera zoomed in on his uneasy face. He knew Booker wasn't just speaking in generalities. He was building a case one sentence at a time. The audience could sense it too. The rhythm of Booker's voice rose slowly, deliberately, each phrase striking like a hammer against the armor of political deflection. Booker began recounting the timeline of decisions, contradictions, and power plays that had led to this hearing. He spoke of the disregard for constitutional limits, the manipulation of truth in public discourse, and the deliberate sowing of division to secure control. It wasn't just a political critique. It was an indictment of an era, told with the passion of someone who had seen the system from the inside and refused to be silent anymore. And then came the turn. Booker leaned forward, his voice lower now, almost whispering, as he described the cost of this corruption. Not in headlines or poll numbers, but in people's lives. He spoke of veterans denied aid, families misled, ordinary Americans crushed under policies written to serve the powerful. The chamber was still. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate before moving. Booker's words didn't just accuse. They exposed. Trump's allies began to exchange nervous glances. They had faced aggression before, but this was different. Booker wasn't shouting. He was dismantling them. Every sentence was crafted with the precision of a prosecutor and the moral weight of a preacher. When one witness tried to interject, Booker paused, turned slightly, and continued, as if the interruption itself proved his point. The audience picked up on the shift instantly. Within minutes, social media exploded. Clips from the live feed began trending under hashtags like #BookerShowdown and #SenateSmackdown. Commentators on both sides of the aisle tweeted frantically, unsure whether to applaud or panic. Even journalists who had come expecting another partisan exchange began to realize they were witnessing something larger, a moment that could define the political tone of the year. Booker didn't rely on cheap theatrics. He stayed focused, using logic as a weapon and empathy as a shield. He quoted the Constitution, cited data, and called out hypocrisy without naming names, letting the guilty identify themselves through their reactions. Each pause, each measured breath, carried an authority that no soundbite could match. It wasn't just a speech. It was a reckoning. As the minutes turned into an hour, Booker began addressing the moral decay behind the political theater. He spoke of how America had turned debate into entertainment, truth into currency, and leadership into performance. We have become a nation, he said, that confuses volume with conviction. His tone sharpened. But real strength is quiet. It stands for justice even when no one is watching. The committee chair glanced nervously toward the clock. What was meant to be a short statement had turned into a full-scale exposé, and Booker wasn't done yet. He pivoted to the witnesses, challenging them directly, their names now spoken with calm precision. You sat in those rooms, he said, when decisions were made to divide rather than unite. You knew the harm and you called it strategy. You sold out the truth, and you called it loyalty." The reaction was instant. One witness whispered to his counsel. Another shook his head, visibly uncomfortable. Booker continued, his voice gaining fire now. "When patriotism becomes a brand, when truth becomes negotiable, democracy itself becomes disposable." The entire room fell silent again. Even those who had come to oppose him couldn't deny the gravity in his words. By the time Booker reached the heart of his message, the tension was almost unbearable. He spoke about accountability not as punishment but as the only path toward redemption. "This isn't about left or right," he said. "It's about right and wrong." He reminded the room that leadership is not measured by how loudly one defends their side, but how courageously one admits their failures. A murmur rippled through the audience. For a fleeting moment, even some of Trump's supporters looked unsure. Booker had shifted the ground beneath them. What began as a partisan interrogation had transformed into a moral confrontation, one that transcended politics. Then came the final crescendo, the moment that would dominate headlines for weeks. Booker looked directly at the lead witness, the man who had spent the entire hearing defending the administration's choices. "History," Booker said slowly, "does not remember those who justify wrong. It remembers those who had the courage to say, 'Enough.'" The witness froze. The cameras zoomed in. For the first time, he had no response. That silence, that single beat of hesitation became the moment. Clips of it spread across social media within minutes. Late-night hosts replayed it. Analysts dissected it. Millions watched as Senator Cory Booker didn't just speak truth to power. He left power speechless. But even after the session adjourned, Booker's impact didn't fade. In the hallways, reporters swarmed him with questions, but he didn't gloat. He spoke softly about why this mattered, about truth, integrity, and the need to rebuild trust in a divided nation. His restraint, his refusal to turn the moment into a personal victory, made it even more powerful. Outside, protests and celebrations erupted simultaneously. Some hailed Booker as the conscience of the Senate. Others accused him of grandstanding. But regardless of which side people stood on, no one could deny what they had witnessed. A moment where clarity cut through chaos. That night, as networks replayed the footage on loop, commentators agreed on one thing. Booker had not just delivered a speech. He had delivered a statement of moral authority. His words would echo through political debates for months, forcing both allies and opponents to confront uncomfortable truths. In the days that followed, opinion pieces filled the airwaves. Supporters called it a masterclass in leadership. Critics called it political theater. But even they couldn't ignore the precision, the composure, the sheer moral gravity that Booker had brought to the chamber that day. He hadn't attacked, he had elevated. Weeks later, polls showed a surprising shift, a rare moment of bipartisan respect for moral conviction. Viewers who normally tuned out politics said they had watched every minute. The video of Booker's speech broke records, spreading far beyond the world of Washington insiders. Teachers played it in classrooms. Activists quoted it in rallies. It had become more than a Senate hearing, it was a cultural flashpoint. And as the dust settled, one truth became clear. While others shouted, Cory Booker had spoken. While others defended, he had challenged. And while others clung to their scripts, he had rewritten the narrative. The viral moment was never about humiliation or dominance. It was about something deeper. It was about the idea that in the face of corruption, calm courage still wins. That truth, spoken with conviction, still has the power to shake the walls of the most powerful rooms in America. As the credits rolled on news highlight reels and reaction channels, one line from Booker's speech stood out, played again and again. "You can mock my passion, you can question my politics, but you cannot erase my purpose." It became the signature line, quoted in posts, stitched in clips, and etched into the memory of millions who felt that, for one brief moment, decency had taken the mic. And so, in the echo of applause, outrage, and awe, the message lingered. Cory Booker hadn't just stunned Trump's allies. He reminded America of what leadership once meant.